turn that on. Good morning, everybody. As I do my little live stream housekeeping, I'm trying to catch up, but I thought I was on top of the game here, but apparently I am not. Let's see. Live. There we go. There we go. All right. Now I'm in good shape. I think I had too many windows open on one of these. Is it this one? No. This one? Oh, that's one. I can get rid of this one. Minimize that one. Being stupid. There we go. Stupid and stupid. Okay, so I think I have it all now. So there's my Twitch. I'm just getting my windows arranged here so that if any of you would like to interact with me on the stream, I have windows open to deal with that. So 1, 2, 3, we're good. We are good. I don't know why this push stick is over here on my table. All right. Well, happy Friday. Is it weird? I hate, happy whatever day. That's so weird to say that. Happy Friday. Happy Monday. I don't know why I said that. It's just kind of came out that way. But it is Friday. Today is the 12th. Yesterday was Veterans Day. So if you are a veteran, thank you for your service. And I have several veterans in my family. And I appreciate everything that you all have done. I am not a veteran. I chose a different path in life, and that's okay. I still serve my country in ways. So, anywho, now I serve myself, and hopefully I serve you with some woodworking content. All right, what is up for today? You know what? I think I'm going to switch these windows around. I think I'm going to switch because you know what? I actually get more interaction on Twitch. And I'm going to bring my Twitch window forward and bring it over so I can see that like in front of everything else. My YouTube, usually the YouTube, it just doesn't generate as much conversation sometimes, but not a lot of conversation. Facebook never does. I don't know why I stream on Facebook. I've got so many people who follow on Facebook and none of them actually interact. So it's kind of weird. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is, can I do this? I need to go and edit my stream so I can update my title here. I don't know if I can do that on here. Broadcast options. I can. There we go. So I can actually update the title and the name of the, I can remember it. Oh, there we go. Playing catch up. So playing catch up, which is what I was doing yesterday. I was playing catch up with some stuff that I had started off camera and wanted to really kind of get to the point where all of my projects currently in place are all in the same, at the same point of being made. Oh yeah, there we go. Excellent. And I do need to check one thing here real quick. Let me just check. Okay, I just wanted to check my audio to make sure you were able to hear me when I was chatting. So I had been originally working on these bases made out of zebra wood, and they're really pretty and very nice. And I got them to a certain point where I had done the sides and done the joinery, put them together, and cut. I think last Wednesday we had cut the rabbet cut in the bottom here, which creates basically a shelf or a groove or I don't know what you want to call it, a ledge around the interior of the base, and that is where I will put a piece of plywood cut to fit there, and that will become the bottom of the base. And I had done that on two of them. I have two of these. One's a smaller one, and then I have a larger one right here, which is a a large base that's going to have a storage compartment on the side. That's what that little area on the side here, on the right side is. So I had done those two, and I had cut the ledge, if you will, the rabbet cut for the base bottoms. But I had a whole bunch of other bases that, 6 of them, I think, to be exact. Is it 6? Yeah, 6 of them that I wanted to kind of bring up to that level, because I don't like making just 1 or 2. It's not really maximizing my time in the shop, because what I do here in front of you all is only a portion of the time I spend in the shop. And if I'm doing a project, I don't like to take that project beyond the steps that you've seen, because I like you to be able to follow along. So what I do is I'll have multiples, and then when I'm off stream, I work on the other ones, and so that everything is kind of in the same stages of completion, if you will. And I started those other ones later than I did the zebra, so I needed to play catch up, and that's what I did yesterday. I was trying to catch up to where we are today. So I did all of the sanding on the interior pieces, or the insides of the bases, because you can't sand really well when things are already assembled. It's better to do your final sanding on the interior pieces before you do your assembly. I didn't do finishing because these are going to get oil finishes, and that's pretty easy to do, but doing the sanding is really hard. So I did all the sanding, and then I cut all the joinery, and then I did all the gluing, and that was a lot because there were 6 of them, and you have to remember I can only glue up like 3 at a time, because I only have 6 of the long parallel clamps that will fit. So I do 3 bases glued up at a time. So I did 3 of them on the afternoon of Wednesday, and then yesterday I finished gluing up the other 3. So they're actually in clamps right now. I'm going to take those out. And then we will be in the same place almost. I need to do one more thing to catch up to the zebra bases, which is cut the little rabbet cuts around the interior of the bases so they can all get bottoms. So I did that this weekend, and that's where we will be today, is cutting those rabbet cuts for the interior base bottoms. In order to actually create base bottoms, I needed to go to the hardware store yesterday. So I went to the Home Depot and I got myself some 1/4-inch Baltic birch ply. I got 2 sheets of that, which that's gone up a little bit in price. Not a lot, but I think it was like $16.50 a sheet. I buy the 2 foot by 4 foot sheets. So it had gone up a little bit in price. I've noticed that price increases are kind of everywhere right now. And it's just part of the way things are. I also, while I was there, because I was there, right? So I bought another bottle of glue, because this one's about 2/3 gone. And I decided to buy another bottle. I used to buy it in the gallon jugs, but it would sit for so long that the glue would kind of go bad. It would congeal and do weird things and stuff. So I've kind of stuck to just buying the smaller bottles like this. And I probably could get the glue and keep it inside, but if I got the larger gallon bottles again, I mean, that is more economical. And I need to get myself some more glue bottles that I can fill, because I like using those. But in the meantime, I just keep buying these little things, and they work. And like I said, I don't use glue to the point where, some shops go through a gallon of glue in a month. For me, it would be, 6 months to 9 months before I would go through a gallon of glue, and it's sitting in the shop with the temperature changes. Glue just doesn't seem to last in those big bottles for me. So at least keeping it out here in the garage. But anyway, bought some glue. I also bought these. This is two things separately that I bought. The first thing is the clamp. This is a bar clamp or a pipe clamp. This one is made by Bessie. This is what they actually sell at the Home Depot. And you have a little spring that slides this back piece along the pipe. You set your distance, and then you can use this back one here, has a little thing, and it pushes forward and clamps. I like using these for anytime I'm doing panel glue ups or any sort of glue up where I need to do a lot of pieces together and try to keep them straight and flat. The metal bars, the pipes, you buy those separately. So that's a 1/2 inch pipe. You can also buy 3/4 inch bar or pipe clamps. They're kind of expensive. And I don't have anything that really needs that much stoutness, that sturdiness. I have a really big one. My son got me one of the 3/4, or is it 3/4 inch? Yeah, 3/4 inch pipe ones. And I bought a really tall pipe to go with it. So if I need to do like a cabinet or something across where I need to clamp across, I've got that. But most of these, I buy the 30-inch pipes. So this is just 30-inch steel pipe. I think this is like $10 a piece for the steel pipe. And I use those, like I said, for doing usually panel glue ups, if I'm gluing a bunch of strips together, for cutting boards, things like that. I like to use them because I can kind of use the pipe as a reference surface, push down, keep everything flat while I'm tightening. And then if I need to, I can use some clamping calls along the sides, but generally they do a really good job, especially when you're gluing things together. So I actually have a couple of things that I've glued together. I won't call them panel glue ups, but when I was assessing the catch-up phase of what I had here for my bases and what I needed to do, one of those things was to create some lids for for a couple of these that are going to have storage. Let me go grab those real quick. They're kind of offset to the side here. So I have 3 of these that are in addition to the zebra bases. These 3 have a need for lids because this storage space right here on the side will have a little rabbet cut in the edge, and then a storage lid will be fit into that. So I need storage lids for these. So this one is Jatoba. It's really heavy wood. That's Jatoba. This one is Walnut. And so it looks really nice. This one has a little carve in the front there. So I have a piece of walnut to use for this one. So this one didn't need a lid per se. I actually have a really cool piece of wood right here, but I don't know if I'm going to use this. It's a little thin. It may not work, but I have another large piece of walnut laying around here somewhere that I can cut into a lid for this one. And if not, I have a bunch of walnut laying around. But I also needed this one right here, which is sapele. So I needed lids for the sapele. And so what I did was I took a couple of pieces of the wood, like this is the Jatoba, and I took just a piece of basically 3-inch wide by, I don't know, 7, maybe 8 inches long, and I did a resaw on the bandsaw and did a book match on here. So let me take this off. And so I book match those together, and that I use pipe clamps to hold them together. So they look really nice. But the book match, let me, whoop, this one, and loosen this one, is 2. So the book match is really nice because it gives a nice symmetrical look to the lid. So you can see that's what the book match lid will look like for that one. It will get thinned down, and I'll cut it equally on the sides so that it is symmetrical, and then cut it to length and everything else. But you can see this was a 3/4 inch piece of wood, and I'm not going to need to take all of this down, but it'll go down to almost about 1/4 inch when it's done. So that one's good. I can put that on there. And then I had one more that I needed. Like I said, I needed one for the sapele, and so let me grab this out of the clamps here. Not sure why I clamped this one extra. An extra clamp there. So what I do is I clamp these up. I clamp them up with the pipe clamps, so they basically set in the pipe clamps. I tighten the clamps, but then I also put a couple of clamps on the edges just to keep them from shifting. So I had these small clamps, and I put a little piece of tape on there just to keep it from sticking to any glue that would seep out. So let me get this clamp off and get this clamp off. But these clamps are really nice in that they're not as good as like the parallel clamps, but for flat stuff like this, or for something else I'm going to show you in a second, for gluing up for cutting boards and things like that, they really do a really nice job. And that's pretty flat, I have to say. Looking at that, that looks pretty flat. They aren't equally spaced up top. These will have to be flattened down, but that looks pretty good. Here's a close up of this one. So this one, a little more subtle, but when this one gets finished, it'll look really nice. And I just did the same book match on that. So this was a little bit thicker. I think this was 0.8 inches in thickness when I did the resaw. So this one's got a little bit more thickness to work with, but both of these will work out just fine. So those lids go with those machines, or with those bases. So I've got this done. So that was kind of a nice thing on my checklist of things that needed to happen for these bases. I'm going to set these aside. That's the other problem, is like, where do I put this stuff while I'm working on it? Because they take up some space. And you got to be careful, because if they fall down right now, they're going to make a mess. Anyway, so I did that yesterday too. I cut those out because I knew I would need lids eventually. I don't need them now, but down the road I will need those lids, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't overlook that, because sometimes I don't think about those pieces of wood that I need later on. Like, I'm going to need to put corners in all of these bases, so I'm going to have to cut triangular corners to go into them. I had to make sure I've got wood to satisfy that need. Otherwise, I'll have to go back to the lumber dealer, my hardwood guy, and buy wood just to take care of like putting 4 corner pieces in, because I'll have forgotten and I won't leave myself enough wood to do. Like, oh, look at this scrap wood, I can turn it into something else. I'll slice it all down and then forget, like, oh God, I needed that wood to be an inch thick so that I could make corner pieces out of it. It's happened more than once. Oh, all right. But is that everything? That's not everything. Not everything. So the last thing, I'm going to get these clamps. I guess I'm going to put them over here. I'm going to have to put these away before we move forward. But anyway, these are my old pipe clamps, and they work great. They're super good. They're not as fancy as the ones from Bessie. I think these were from Harbor Freight. They're not cheap, but if you buy them, then you have to still go buy these 1/2-inch pipes to use. But I love pipe clamps. They do a great job, and all of this pipe is threaded, so this part just threads. It just threads onto the end of the pipe, and then this has springs inside and moves around, and so they're very, very reliable clamps. All right. Oh, I still have more tape right here. So the other thing I did yesterday, and I think I had talked about this on Wednesday, was I had a bunch of scrap on the floor behind my table saw that when I take boards that are wider than the width that I need for doing a base, like say, I get a board that's 5 inches and I need to make 3-inch wide boards for my bases. Well, I'm cutting, almost 2 inches of wood off of that board. And so I had a lot of pieces of wood like that, just long, thin strips of wood. And my thought was, well, at some point in time, I can use those to make something. And Well, it's now getting to be almost mid-November, which means Christmas is just around the corner, and probably means I should probably get started making some Christmas presents. And that's what I decided to do yesterday with some of my time, because remember, I had to get stuff into clamps and then it's gluing, and then I'm kind of at a stopping point. So what I did was I went and grabbed a whole bunch of my strips and cut them down into little things like this. And so this has 2 pieces of oak, and then there's some couple of strips of walnut, a couple of strips of cherry, and then down the middle is a what is that, Paduk down the middle. And so I've got a bunch of different ones, so they're not all the same. And these, I'm going to turn these into serving trays, cheese boards, charcuterie boards, whatever you want. I mean, people have a bunch of different names for them. But there's another one right here. So this one has a couple of walnuts, a cherry, a, what is this one? This is a sapili and a paduk in the middle. So they're all different shapes and different, not shapes, but different strips of wood and different sizes of wood. See, this one is a cherry, a paduk, or no, this is a jatoba, 2 jatobas, a maple, a couple of maples, and a walnut. And I'm going to try to separate these out. I haven't put them together yet 100%. I'm trying to space them so that they kind of are visually pleasing. Oh, actually, this one has a strip of hickory in it too. And I try to keep them separated by like their width. So they're all the same width. I did them 3/4 of an inch, and I cut them all to approximately the same length, which is about 20 inches. And what I will do is glue these into boards that I can then, I'll put a handle in it, and then it'll come down and be wide. And then what I'll do is like carve an initial or something in here on my CNC machine and fill that with epoxy and sand it all flat, put a nice oil finish on like a walrus oil or something that is made specifically for serving trays, food safe type oil. Mineral oil works basically the same way. And yeah, so I've got 6 of these things that need to be glued together. Oh, I just ruined that one. So I've got 6 of these that need to be glued together and turn them into Christmas presents. That's my mission, is to create Christmas presents from all of these strips of wood that I have sliced down into bite-sized sections like this. And so I did a whole bunch of that yesterday, just kind of trying to figure out what I've got and going through my different stocks of lumber and scrap and everything else, because even though I hate calling it scrap, I just like to call it unused wood. Because when you call it scrap, it sounds like here, I made you a present out of some scraps. It doesn't sound nice, right? I don't think so. But if I had dove into my unused lumber stash and created this really great product for you, then you'd be like, ooh, that's so pretty with all the different woods. And so it makes a difference at what you call it, I think. Anyway, I've got 6 of these things, and that's one thing about the pipe clamps, is I've got 6 of them there, and I need to get them glued, put together, and then I think I can do this with 2 sets of pipe clamps, or use, well, not 2 sets, but glue them in 2 sets of 3. So I think that's what I'm going to do with these things, and I might do that now, because I've got them here. If I can get them into clamps, I can set them aside, let them dry, and they'll be kind of out of my way. What do you think? You think we should? I think we should. I think we should go ahead and glue some of these up. I'm going to set these aside because I've got them here and they're kind of in the way. And we need to do some glue ups on them. And so what I'm going to do, just kind of set these up so we can start gluing them. Do I have a camera over here? I do have a camera over here. Look at that. So let's start with the big. I'm going to set these clamps off to the side here. Oh, and the pipe clamps are really heavy too, by the way. They are not lightweights by any stretch of the imagination. So what I will probably end up doing is set them aside, like, if I've got enough room here. I do. I will set them near the ends, and I will take the boards and glue them, and then set them inside, and then basically just have no glue between the next set. So let me see how many sets I can get in here. I think 2 sets of 3 is what I want. 2, and here's 3. All right, and all of these have been cut to approximately 3/4 of an inch thick, so they should all pretty much line up on here. The one thing I will need to do is I'm going to pull them up here so I can see exactly how much space I'm going to need, because what I want to do is put some tape on my I'm going to put tape on the pipes, because what happens when you glue up boards like this using pipe clamps, you will get this nasty, the iron interacts with the glue and leaves these nasty black marks and such on your boards. And to keep that from happening, all you have to do is put like a strip of tape on your boards or on your pipes, and that will keep them from getting all messy with glue. I'm just going to take these and move this way. Go, and I'm just going to take this and put it right here. Hopefully that should be enough length on there to protect. It protects the pipe and it protects the wood. And that's really why I do this, is I don't want to get those black marks. They're really hard to get off of here, and you're going to get squeeze out because you're going to have to use enough glue. Look at me, look at that, that was cool. You're going to have to use enough glue to really get some good joints here, because these are serving trays. And they'll have food on them, and you don't want any food issues like bacteria and such. All right, but in the meantime, I can move these back now and have room to start setting these. Okay, I need to move this up here, and we can do this. There we go. All right, so I'm going to separate these back into their sections here, I hope. I think that was it. And I think that was it. Was that it? And that one. So 1, 2, how wide is that? Yeah, it's about the same width. They're not all the exact same width because I'm just using strips of wood here. And that doesn't always work out well. Actually, I need to go the other direction. So I'm going to do like this. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I'm going to move the bases up because it's easier that way. And the big key to this stuff is get your stuff set up and ready to go, because when you start gluing, you do not want to be delaying everything. You want to be able to just glue and clamp. So I've got my glue. I'm going to go get a paper towel or 2 or 5. And you know what? I'm just going to grab the whole roll here. I've got paper towels here because you want to wipe up extra glue and stuff. That's easy to do. Let me lower the brightness down here so I can see conversations, but I don't want my computer to just run out of juice. So I'm going to start by getting the glue on this one, and then I'll shove it down to the end here, and then I will just keep doing that, leaving no glue between the two sections, but they will still be able to clamp and have force. And I'm going to put more clamps on here than just these. These are just my beginning clamps. All right. So I'm going to set this one back, and then I'm going to turn these. So I'm going to turn these in the direction where the glue is going to be applied, like this, and then we will start gluing. I'm just going to do this right now. Just going to get it done. Which normally I kind of procrastinate on this stuff, but you know what? The thing is, today's the 12th, and I have to get these done, and because everyone lives far away from me, at least my family does, who's going to probably get these. I have to get these in the mail, which means I need enough time to get all this stuff done and mailed, which, if you've mailed anything lately, you know can be a royal pain. I'm going to just use my finger, and I'm going to need more glue on here probably, but let's see how we do here. Usually you can get a pretty good glue spread with your finger here. Just want to make sure you have no glue starved areas, fully coat it. Okay, this is a piece of sycamore, I think. Kind of cool. All right. I used to use a brush for this, like a silicone brush and stuff, but honestly, sometimes just using your finger is, because I can scrape it off the edge and put it back in there. And sometimes just using your finger is the best way to get a really good glue joint. It is nature's glue spreader. Okay. The nice thing is these things don't have to line up perfectly on the ends because they're going to get trimmed. These are all going to get cut down into their final shape and size after they are glued into these little panels, if you will. So I just need to have the ends kind of close together. They don't have to be perfect though. Ooh, that's a lot of glue right there, but that's good. Okay. Nice thing is I can always take my glue and scrape it off and move it to the next one. Okay, and this is a piece of maple. And just fill in all these gaps in here. And what else we got here? One more piece to go on here. For this one, this is sapele or sapelli. Your mileage may vary. It's kind of funny on these boards because you can hear them pronounced about 10 different ways. The names of the wood. I don't know if anybody actually knows how they're pronounced. All right, this one has a little extra glue on there. I'm going to take that off. All right, there's one. Now I'm going to take this one and push it over because I don't want any glue between these two. So I'm going to move over here and then start flipping these up so that they are in position to get their glue. All right, another maple one here. Now I'm just getting the glue off my finger here, and then I'll spread a bit more glue around here. Yeah, people who do cutting boards go through massive amounts of glue. I don't use that much for my projects because honestly, I don't do that much gluing. Most of my gluing is on some joinery, which is just like the four little corners of my bases. So I don't go through a ton of glue, but people who do a lot of cutting boards and things like that can go through gallons of glue. Not me. All right, get this spread really smooth on here. And I usually am a firm believer in, you know, very light coats of glue. But when I'm doing something like this, I just want to make sure more glue is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not going to ruin the project. It'll all get cleaned off. Any squeeze out comes off, and all this extra squeeze out kind of lets you know that you've got pressure across the entire panel. So it's kind of helpful that way because it gives you an idea of whether or not your glue application is sufficient, which I've made some boards, some cutting boards where it has not been. So whenever I'm doing anything like this, I always err on the side of a little too much glue just to make sure that a little bit more is not a bad thing. All right, we're cruising through here. Yeah, getting glue all over my hands with these thin ones. But I look at them in the light just to make sure that I don't have any bare patches of wood on there. Because even though they would probably glue up just fine, because the glue squeezing will spread out, but like I said, I'm fearful of dry spots in there, of a glue-starved joint. All right, and then the other thing that you really need to make sure you're addressing is clamping pressure. You want to make sure that you've got even clamping pressure across the entire surface. Another maple here. That was a Jatoba right there. I'm really curious in this Jatoba how it's going to finish. I have not used it before. I've had this board for a while because sometimes I just I'll see a board and just think that's cool, and it sits in my shop forever and I don't use it. Example, I've got a Binga board that I've only used a couple of little pieces out of because it's just really pretty and cool looking wood, and I'm like, oh, I hate to use it for something. So it'll just sit there for years until I actually figure out what I want to use it for. This is hickory. So I had some hickory left over from a couple of base projects that I recently finished. So this is going to keep itself out of the scrap pile, which is always good. Okay, that's this one finished. Now I just have to do the last one here. And what I'm going to do is set this one inside here like this. I may not be able to get all of this. So let's see, this one goes here, here. It's going to be close. Whether I can get it all set inside here, I'm going to have to glue these up separately. I'll have to glue these last three on here separately because I'm running out of room in the clamp. So let me get some glue on these four, and then I'll do these last three kind of individually. And the other thing is these are all different widths, so I can't just spread it with a roller or something because they're stacked up differently. When you flip them on the side, they're stacked up at different heights, so I can't use a roller, which I've seen, you know, some people who are doing them and they're equal height. It's nice because it makes the glue up go much faster. But that's not my position right now. All right, that one. So funny, I pick up these Jatoba and you instantly know it's the Jatoba because it is so dense and so heavy compared to all these other boards that I'm doing. All this glue off of here. All right. A little walnut, because, you know, walnut's awesome. We love some walnut in my shop. I've kind of become a fan of the rustic walnut that I get at my hardwood dealer lately. I mean, it's all heartwood, so it's the dark walnut that you normally see. The difference being that it's not the perfectly clear boards. A lot of this stuff will have knots and things like that in there, but because I'm not using big wide sections of the boards, I'm cutting pieces out of the boards to use in my projects. Some of this stuff has the best grain in it. It's just some really cool looking grain in the rustic stuff. And so while some people would say, oh, it's, you know, it's not appropriate for a beautiful dining table or whatever, and I agree with that, there are some beautiful sections of the boards that make awesome looking sewing machine bases. And the beauty of that is that it is less than half the price of what I would pay for the premium walnut boards. So I'll pay like $4.50 a board foot for this, you know, less than perfect walnut board, but I'll pull beautiful figured wood out of there, and I'm doing it at a fraction of the cost of regular walnut, and I get grain which I think sometimes is prettier than what I would get out of their premium boards, which cost upwards of $12 a board foot for that. So I have really come to enjoy, yeah, I'm gonna be really close on this. I've really come to enjoy the rustic walnut. Like I said, it's, you know, you have to look at it and assess if you're going to be able to get boards out of it, because it does have things like knots and some voids and sometimes cracks and stuff like that. So you have to look at it and see if, you know, you kind of be able to pre-visualize your project, and can you pull the premium wood out of, you know, get the diamonds out of the rough. But I have found generally I have no problem doing that. So this stuff is really nice, and I've really enjoyed working with it lately. All right, one more to go right here, and I don't know what I think this is a piece of ash actually. So there you go. I've got a lot of different varieties here. So a piece of ash, and then I will take this and start closing the clamps on them and trying to do equal pressure across so they don't slide and move around and whatnot, because when you've got this much glue on stuff, it can have a tendency to slide around. All right. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to push this against here. I'm going to push these up a little bit, because this is the bottoms of them. I'm going to try to get it equal here to each other so they're in the same place. And then we will start pushing from the back side here. Let me get this glue off my finger so I don't get glue everywhere. This looks so much easier in a YouTube video, you know? Well, you just put some glue on and then you get it spread and then you just clamp it. Yeah. Don't show us the hard stuff. All right. And now I'm just gonna close this clamp up a little bit here and make sure I've got these ends kind of where I want them to be. Make sure I'm not shorting myself anywhere. That's that one. These are all good. This one could move up a little bit. These could move up a little bit. Just trying to keep one sort of straight edge. All right, and get this over to the side because I'm going to put more clamps on here. I just need this to be clamping on one edge. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to move it down a little bit and start pushing this one in. Make sure they're all resting down on that pipe, because that pipe's going to give me at least one straight kind of edge there to work with as a sort of a reference. There we go. All right. And I'm just slowly tightening these clamps. I'm not over pressuring them. And then what I'm going to do is get a couple of more clamps like this. And I'm going to figure out how wide these need to be. So, and I'm going to put some tape on them so that these do not get mucked up with glue. Because, like I said, getting those glue spots off of your project can be difficult. All right, so here's one, and I'll put this one right here. And just trying to evenly space these out. So I'm going to have even pressure coming from multiple lines on this thing. And get this as close as I can here. When I put my tape on here, it doesn't have to go right to the very edge, but close. And also square these up. All right, get this one on here, and then we can start applying some pressure in the middle here. Just gonna slowly tighten this one down and this one. Said now what we're looking for is even squeeze out. There we go. Now I'm getting some squeeze out across the entirety of the project. I want to see glue squeezing out of almost all these boards across here. There's a lot of glue. But as I look through, this one's not quite straight. I'm going to loosen this one and straighten it up just a little bit. There we go. Just want it to be straight. Okay. I'm pretty sure that is going to work. All right, so this is what I came up with. You can see, looks like a big giant plank, but it's actually 3 different ones. And I will set this off to the side. Actually, what I'm going to do, hang on a second, is wipe some of this extra glue off of here. Because it will just drip all down the sides and make a really nasty, gross situation after the fact, because it'll drip all over the floor and everything else. So if I can just kind of clean a little of it off here, and I'll have to do the same thing on the back of it. But it just keeps it from dripping off. And some people are like, oh, wait half an hour and then you can just clean all those drops off. Yeah, I never found that to actually work real well. So I'm gonna flip this whole thing over and then wipe the glue off the back. And you can see here, we've got same thing here. Sorry about the shaking, but you can see all the glue squeeze out coming out of here. And we're just gonna clean all the squeeze out off of here. Now I'm making 6 of these, and I have highlighted in my head the 6 people or families who will be getting them. It's actually 5. So I'm kind of making an extra one because A, if I screw one up, I've got a spare. But B, if I don't screw it up, well, I have a spare. And I can, you know, if I always forget someone, you know, and so that way I always just have, you know, a fallback spare gift to give to someone if I need to. All right, so I'm going to set this aside where I have no idea. Let's lean it over here. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, and we need to do the next 3. So we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Exactly the same thing we just did. I'm going to set these up. Now these, I ran out of the fancy clamps. So I have my regular pipe clamps that I will use for these. This is why I bought that extra set of clamps, because I wanted to have enough clamps to do the job. What I'm going to do now is figure out how much space I'm going to need. So I'm going to turn this all the way back. So it's basically what I'm doing is I'm having the screw all the way back in so that when I start turning it, I get all this max pressure where it needs to be. But I need to figure out how wide this needs to be. And if I set them against the fence, I can sort of keep everything squared up and true. I'm just right now just figuring out where I'm going to need to put tape on here. And then once I figure that out, then I can go ahead and tape them and then start gluing again. All right. Am I out of pencil? I'm just going to mark it here on the side so that I know where I can put my tape. And now I'm going to take these back off for the moment. And just set them aside. Now these are easier because I have big wide boards. These will actually take less time. This is because I had some wider scrap. With that tape. Did I drop it? I had wider scrap oak pieces. And I was like, well, I might as well use them. Oh, there it is. I might as well use them because I'm not going to use them for anything else. They were kind of like cut out of boards that are bases that didn't turn out or whatever. So my pencil mark there, right here. Protect our boards here. The evil black stains. I think that's good. Okay. All righty then. Now we can start doing our glue ups. I'm going to grab 2 of these. I think that's the way we started that last one. It was just easier that way. And then we'll bring the third one over. So one board goes in. Yeah, bring this up just a little bit here. Just to get it equal here. There we go. Okay, one board goes in, and then I will start flipping these in the way that they need to be glued. Like that. Now some of these I cut with a long handle section in there. I just was experimenting. And like I said, these don't have their final shape yet, so we will see how they turn out. But I think they're all going to get a handle at the top, maybe with a hole in it. You can hang it up or something. And then they're all about 5 inches wide and about 3/4 inches tall. All the bases will be 5 inches wide and about 3/4 inches tall. Like I said, these are not cutting boards. These are serving / cheese / charcuterie boards. So you could cut on them. They're not really, that's not their purpose in life. I don't know why we adopted the term charcuterie board, which is just basically a board that is used to serve meat and cheese. But it is what it is. All right, let me start spreading this stuff around here. So that was a piece of oak, a piece of cherry. You know, I'm going to switch these. I'm going to switch these up a little bit. Hang on a second. Get off of there. I'm going to put the this oak between this walnut between the cherry and the oak, just to give a little color variety. Because to me, those woods are similar in hue. They might look a little different when they get oil on them, but right now they kind of look a little too similar in color, and I want a little bit of separation between the different sections. So I'm going to put this in here. There we go. And then I'll put the cherry. And then next to that comes a piece of maple. So the maple is really white, and no problem with that standing out from the other woods. It's one of the things I really love about the maple when you're doing a cutting board or chessboard, something like that. You can really, the maple really stands away from, even if you're using like cherry and stuff, it just is so much lighter and brighter than the other woods. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Kind of got these switched around. All right. And we're just going to... So yeah, I am kind of changing. I just roughly put them together just to kind of get an essence of which boards needed to go in which group to create the proper board thickness, like to get close to that 5-inch wide. And then I figured I would go ahead and, arrange them for aesthetic purposes after the fact. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, is getting the aesthetics of which looks better next to which. And I kind of did that, but honestly, once you start putting them together like this, sometimes you look at it and go, I don't know if that combination works. So get all the glue off the bottom that I can here. All right, that's a lot of glue on there. Lots of glue. Stick. There we go. And lastly is this piece of oak on the wing. We will call this the wing. So the outer wings of the board have large pieces of oak on them. By large, I mean like about 1.25 inches or so. It's going to get all this glue off the bottom here. There we go. So there's the first one done. And like I said, just trying to get them about even on one edge here. Ugh, too much glue on my fingers. Hang on. Too much glue. I can't get anything done. All right, there we go. Just trying to get these things all lined up. Like I said, they don't have to be perfect, but I do want them to be close on one side, and that looks pretty good. Okay, next. And yeah, getting the glue off your fingers between these is good, because you don't want glue on the inside of this one. These two need to meet without being glued up. So we don't want any glue getting between them, because that would be bad. I would have to cut them apart. That's not what I'm after here. All right, I'm just getting some more paper done. All right, now this one, I can set these aside. 2, 3, 4, 6. And get these all glued up. Once this is done, though, it's kind of nice, because then I will have this part out of the way, and then I can get to the more creative stuff on here once they're in their final form, which will allow me to kind of shape them and decide on, like, if I'm going to do a monogram or something on them and how I want to do that. I probably would do that on my CNC machine, do the monogram, and then fill it with epoxy, which would be kind of cool looking. Because once again, these are not cutting boards, so you don't have to worry about the epoxy getting scarred up from knife marks and such. The other thing is, I mean, I said, you know, using an oil finish or something, I might also just use like a salad bowl finish, which I have that. Oops, I didn't really need the glue. Hang on a second. Didn't need the glue up here. There we go. Oh well, because this piece sticks up larger. But yeah, so I could use something like a salad bowl finish on here, which I have that, which is a really easy finish to apply. Just kind of brush it on or wipe it on and let it sit, and then you can, interesting. I'll have to fill that. Maybe do an epoxy fill on it or something. Got a little void right here on the bottom of this piece of cherry. But you know what? I will do a epoxy fill on that. So I'm not really worried about it. It'll be on the bottom. And so we'll just do that. Okay, this is the Padauk right here. God, I've got so much glue on my fingers. Yikes. There's the Padauk. The Padauk is really cool looking. Like Padauk, it's used a lot for accent pieces like this because it has such a striking color, that bright orange color, that and like Purple Heart. And there's some woods that just really get used for doing a lot of accent work in when you have multiple laminations of boards like this. They will go out of their way to find those pieces of wood that have those striking color differences. And Padauk is one of them. Just this really beautiful orangey, rusty color. All right. Much like the, you know, the darkness of the walnut. Okay, we're getting close here. I've got one more to do after this one, and then we can get the clamps tightened down. Get all the glue off of here. Hang on a second. All right. So much glue. Oh my God, Jeff. So much glue. Problem is when you get that much glue, it just gets all over your fingers, and then you're going to start spreading glue in places where you don't want glue spread. So this is the last piece. This is the oak wing on this one. Like I said, all these kind of had oak wings on them. So in this group, there we go. Okay, get this cleaned off, and then we've got one more set here. So let me bring this over. So this one gets no glue, and these will get glue. Glue and glue. Oh, awesome. So I've got just enough room to do these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue on this piece right here just because the Padauk does not reach all the way, or the Padauk actually is longer than this piece. And if I just spread glue across the length of that Padauk, then it's just going to be hanging out in the air, not gluing to anything. But if I use the glue on this piece, on this edge, and then push the Padauk next to it, there we go. So I'll do this. Then I'll put the Padauk in here, or actually it's not Padauk, this is a piece of, what is this, sapele? Yeah, sapele. But it's okay, because it's still, I don't have glue up in this end. It's just hanging out there doing nothing. So, all right, this is the Padauk, because it's just kind of fun to say. Padauk. I don't know if that's the right way to say it though. P-A-D-A-U-K. So it's almost like that second A is silent. Padauk, which it seems like it should be Padauk, but I've never heard anybody call it Padauk. I always hear it called Padauk. So like I said, sometimes it's just, you don't know what the actual correct pronunciation is. I'm sure there are some scholars out there who would love to correct me or set me straight, but until I hear otherwise, it is Padauk. right, get my glue off of here, put a little extra on. This is cherry, which I kind of didn't want cherry next to oak, but this one's just going to have to be that way. It'll just have to be that way. Cherry, though, does get a little darker with age than the oak does, so it might be okay. All right, and the last piece is this piece of oak. Get the glue off my finger, a little extra on here, and then we're going to tighten these clamps down on here. That's the last step. And then, hey, we're done for, you know, a day or two. These will be okay to come out of clamps this weekend. I will let them sit for at least a day in the clamps, though, to get really, really good joints, really solid glue joints. All right, that's pretty solid. All right, let me wipe the glue off my fingers, and then I'm going to push all this back towards the back of the clamps here, hopefully. This whole thing will slide this way. Come on, there we go. And then I can push these edges in. Oh, see, I've got some glue on the, hang on a second. Glue underneath there. Not good. I don't even know where that glue came from. Okay. So I can slide these bottom pieces up. And now, once I get these things kind of all straightened up with each other, and the glue is already starting to set up a little bit, so this first one kind of holds. You can see I'm moving one board, but the whole section kind of moves together, so it already starts to set up, but we're gonna make sure that it's really set. So I'm gonna put these right near the edge here, so we get this clamping pressure at this edge, clamping pressure at this edge. Okay, I moved this backwards by accident. So let's go this way. This whole thing needs to shift this way. There we go. All right, I'm just going to start kind of tightening this up a little bit. Just making sure it's square. This looks good. And just make sure everything's pressed down. All right, not heavy pressure, just enough to make sure that everything's holding without slip sliding. I'm going to move the whole thing this way because it's easier for me to actually turn these when it's hanging off the table. Now I need to get a couple of more. So let me grab a couple of more clamps. So I've got one here, and I'm going to set my my tape for this so that I know where I need to tape. Ah, don't touch it. All right, so I'm going to put some tape down on here, and then we'll tighten this one up, and then we will do the same thing for the last one, the last clamp that I bring over. And hopefully, taking this extra time will save me in the long run. I think it will. I think it will. All right, I'm going to put this one down on here. That looks pretty good. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of tightening just to hold it together. And I need one more. This one is, I don't know where I got this clamp, this bar clamp. It's a completely different design than the other ones. It's actually, this one's, it says it's made by Pony. This one is actually more similar to the Bessie clamp. And I actually enjoy this one more than these Harbor Freight ones. But, you know, is what it is. But it's a little bit larger, a little bit more stout than the Harbor Freight one. So I'm not sure where I got this, but but it's here in the shop. I may have got this at a garage sale, I think. Somewhere, somebody, you know, somebody passed away and they were selling the tools and such, and so I added it to my collection. Okay, push down, and then we start tightening. All right, so now I've got these clamps on here, and we can start clamping and looking for glue squeeze out. Getting them all clamped equally here. You do not seem like you're equally clamped here. You look like you rode up on me. Hang on, I'm loosening everything right now because this one right here, this board, there we go, was not acting nice. There we go. Everybody clamp again. All right. Yeesh. Glue off of my hands. Now I can clamp this tight. This one's straight. This one's a little crooked. Hang on. This square. Tighten these down. Get good squeeze out. Excuse me. So there we go. So that's the second set of 3. And what you can see, these are actually easy to define because the little handles that I made for these right here. And they will get an adequate time in these clamps. Then I will take them out and probably run them through the planer once, just to get them all flat and equally the same thickness. These are going to be a little thinner than, which is okay because, like I said, not cutting boards, serving boards. So if they're a little thinner than 3/4 of an inch, which they will be, that's okay. I am fine with that. And I perfectly planned for that. I won't say perfectly planned for that. I did plan for them to be thinner because obviously if I wanted them thicker, I would have gone more than 3/4. But the problem is my scrap wood, for the most part, had already been milled to 3/4 of an inch. So I really didn't have much of a choice here. Ooh, good squeeze out on this side. This is really showing me that I got good glue joints here. Because I've got, excuse me, good squeeze out from all the boards that should have good squeeze out. So, like I said, just wiping this crap down. Because honestly, it's going to save me work in the long run. Time is it? 12:15. My goodness. Hang on a second, folks. I'll be right back because my son's still here and he shouldn't be. So hang on a second. Well, I must be seeing things. I thought I looked out and saw his car, but I did not because he's gone to work, which is good because that's where he should be. Kids. Crazy kids. Crazy kids. All right. Let me get all of this wiped up. Ugh. So much glue. I mean, I could use like a wet paper towel or whatever, but I don't really care. As long as the big globs are not on here that will drip all over my floor, then I'm good. And then the rest of this will all get cleaned up after the fact with some chisels and some routers and planes. We will just hit it with an aeroplane and it will be all good. Okay. All done. Woo, sorry about the shaking. So all done. Taking this off, setting it aside. Ugh, mercy. These are heavy. But it's nice. And I now have a couple of days to kind of figure out what I want my design to look like, what I want to do if I'm going to put a like a monogram carve into it, you know, what I'm going to use for epoxy to fill it. Because what I'll do is I'll color the epoxy. I have to get all this glue off my table here. You need to not use 5-minute epoxy when you do this stuff. So you need the correct kind of epoxy. I would like something thin, and I would need to get maybe like a syringe, not like a needle syringe, but like a, I don't know what kind of syringe it would be. But anyway, they make these syringes where they have, that makes it easier to fill in epoxy inside of small carved areas. And so I'll probably do that and then sand it and clean it up, put some finish on them, and then wrap them up. All right, speaking of wrapping up, I'm gonna take one more quick little break because I'm gonna go wash my hands because I've got glue all over and I can't function like this, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm sorry, not starting soon. We're actually on. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. All right, well, I still look like I've been chain smoking and have nicotine stains on my fingers, but I do not. That is not what's going on here. But yeah, the yellow glue does tend to stain a little bit, which is, I guess, why people use the little brushes. I mean, I have those brushes, but they just kind of, I don't know. I don't, I used to love them, but now I'm just kind of like, and they're kind of a pain to get the glue out from in between the bristles. And then, you know, some of the bristles start falling off and they're just kind of a pain. I guess they would be considered a consumable, but I don't know. All right, but what I do know is that my table here is now, well, I got a little extra glue on here. My table is now clean and free, my router table. So we can actually start creating those rabbets in the tables. God, my head, my brain, I swear. We can put those rabbets in the bases. Speaking of that, I should probably take these out of clamps. These are the ones that got clamped up yesterday. So I can take these out and get them ready for some rabbeting. The one thing I had to do yesterday though, because I was using my table saw and I needed to extend the fence back, so I had to lower my, my router bit down into the table unfortunately, because I had that height set already. So I'm going to have to reestablish that router bit height. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do. But I do need to do that. So let me get all of these out of clamps. And then we can work on that. Rubber foot always falls off. You know a way of keeping these rubber feet on here? That would be super cool. Share that with me because these things are always falling off. I love these clamps, but dang, if that clamp head doesn't always, that rubber foot always fall off. Let's set that aside. Those are the only two clamps I really don't know where they should live. Okay, undo these two. So there's number 2. And then got one more after this. I will put these clamps away right now because they are just big and they get in the way if I don't stash them immediately. These are Bessie F clamps. I like these. These are nice and large F clamps right here. I'm a fan of these. These I usually put over on the table over here just to get them out of my way. Oh, tighten. So keeps them out of my way, but they're handy if I do need them. And this last one. So this is Padauk, really pretty. So it's got that striking kind of rusty orange color. These clamps back in their holder. There we go. All right. Now, set these aside because I need to establish my depth for my bit. So I'll grab my little scrap piece of plywood right here. Like I said, I did go yesterday to the lumber store. So I did buy 2 sheets of Baltic birch. That's what this is. It's kind of bright. So you can see the grain. It's really pretty. 1/4 inch 2x4 Baltic birch. That's what this is. And this stuff will get cut up into strips as soon as I make these rabbet cuts, because I need to know how wide to cut the plywood, and I don't know that until I've established that ledge that it will fit into. So we'll need to measure that. So right now, I need to get this set at the right height. So I like it to be just a bit deeper than the plywood. I don't like the plywood to be flush with the table surface. I like to be set up above it just a little bit. And that way the base is just resting on the edges of this wood and the plywood just kind of sits inside. Now, the problem I have with these particular bases right here are their size. I have to be really careful with these because in order to fit a specific machine, I don't have any leeway. I have almost no leeway for these things. These are 2 3/4 inches wide. This material is not 1/4 inch, even though it says it's 1/4 inch. This material is 0.18 inches thick. But I need 2.5 inches of clearance to the bottom of this. Now my base will not sit flush with this top. Or the machine doesn't sit flush with this. It sits up about 1/16 of an inch above, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 3/32. But I don't have a lot of wiggle room, and to be able to fit a specific base in here, which I need to be able to fit what's called a 99 base inside here. I have very small tolerances, and need to make sure that these things are within those tolerances. Oh, the other thing I need to do, which I haven't done on these yet, is I need to make sure that these are flat. So before I run them through this router bit, I need to make sure that the bottoms are flat, because otherwise I'm not going to get a nice even depth cut around the perimeter. Because if they're wonky, if they're not sitting flat, then they're not going to give me a nice even cut around the inside. So what I need to do is I took careful consideration when I was gluing these things up to keep them as flat as I possibly could, but that doesn't always work out. You do your best, but it doesn't always work. So what I do is I bring them over here to my table saw, which has a I'm already sad. It has a cast iron top, which I use as a reference surface. And as you can see that tipping? That lets me know that I have too much height at this end and this end. Now sometimes that's just glue squeeze out that does that, and sometimes it's just the edge. So before I can route these bottoms, I need to make sure that these things are flat. So what I'm going to do, I've actually got it right here, is I've got my, I need to set these aside. I've got my handy dandy plane right here, and I'm just going to take a little bit off of this piece right here, off of this corner, and a little bit off of this corner. I don't want to do too much, just a little bit. And I got to see which way the grain's running too, because, oh, dang it. All right, let me try this way. See if it likes to, oh, it likes this direction. Sometimes wood looks like it wants to be cut in one direction, and you do it, and it gets you just tons of tear out. Now this one, I can go this way. So like I said, both of these opposite corners, I'll take just a little bit off just to start it. And then we will reassess. And I'm going to hit this edge right here. Just kind of, all right. Let me check it again. I just do a tiny bit at a time, because if you overcorrect, then you're chasing your tail. Okay, we're really close now, but still have a little bit more to go. I'm looking for where it's touching the table. It's actually touching right here and here. So one thing I could do is locate my pencil, which right now seems like an impossibility. I have no idea where my pencil is. There it is. Because I noticed I had a little bit of a high area right here, but then I was high on this corner right down here. And by marking those areas with my pencil, it gives me a little bit of a visual indicator of where I need to do some work here. There we go. That's nice. And then clean that off. This one was high right here on this edge. So I'm going to work this edge, work it back a little bit. And I think, let me just hit this. There we go. Man, this Duke just, ooh, that's so nice on the, still just a little bit. So I'm just looking for where it touches right here. It's just still touching right here. I'm going to work this corner down just a little bit here. And I think that might, because now I'm just like, I just want to take little tiny slices off here. I don't want to take too much. This side right here, just a little bit. There we go. Really close. Really close. kind of right in the middle of this thing right here. Let me just clean up this. Edge right there. Maybe that was it. Okay, I think we're good. Well, so close. So close. So close. Give this another little love tap here. Now we're flush. Okay, no tipping, no nothing. So this one right here, you can see, I mean, just a hair, but that's okay. I can live with that because I don't want to take too much material off. Okay, next one. Check this one out. This one's not bad, just needs a little bit off of those corners. And I might just try one corner first. Let's see if there's one of these that looks a little suspect here. Let's see if I've got any glue squeeze out or anything. No, it's a little high on this corner. I can feel where the joint is. I can feel this piece is just a little higher than the end piece. So this piece right here, just a little higher than this piece over on the side. So let me give this a little love with the, see if that makes a difference. And then I'm just going to do a tiny little bit. Do just a little bit more. Because like I said, you do too much and you'll just chase your tail all over the place. I've done it before. It's not fun. I'm going to work on this edge just a tiny bit. I didn't touch this edge before. Just going to give this a, of course it wants to go the other direction. And I always try to cut in that grain direction. That feels really good. That was not that much cutting either. There we go. Let's see what we did. All right, this one's perfect. One more to go. Hopefully this one is as easy as that peely was. Ooh, dead flat. Gotta love that one. All right, so these are all good now. Yay. But that really is a very important step. And the problem is as you're cutting around that inside with that bit and you rotate around and you just keep cutting, if your sides aren't flat on the table as you're moving this thing around, you're going to get uneven cuts in here. One side will be deeper than the other, and then your bottom is not going to fit in there right. So it's a simple thing to do, and it's a simple thing to overlook, and I've done that, and it's like you pay for it later. So it takes the time, or it takes, I don't know what I say. It's good to do it now. All right, now I need to set up my my tool here to mark. I've got my marking gauge. I need my bit here because I want to set this up so that I'm taking a the correct depth off here, and I need to mark that in my on the interior of my bases, because creating, ooh, that's about perfect. Creating that line with my marking gauge allows me to cut those fibers along the line where this bit is going to cut, and that keeps me from getting tear out, which is a very important thing. You do not want tear out. Tear out bad. Good cuts, good. All right, let me do this one more time. There. I think that is what I want. I'm going to cut a scrap piece of wood just to make sure that, let me find a bigger scrap of wood. I want to make sure that the mark is lining up with my, there we go, with my cutting edge here. Because it doesn't do me any good to mark an edge if it's not cutting at the correct depth. So let me go ahead and power up the router, and not a whole lot else I need to do. Put my ear protection on. I might move my camera. I've got a camera set up for over here. It's the one that we did for the gluing. But the problem is, I mean, we could use this camera. Problem is that this camera is actually attached to the table saw. And so any vibration is kind of like magnified. So let me just do it like this. That might be good. Let me just tilt you up a little bit. Move, move, move. There we go. All righty. And hang on just 1 second. I know you're like, I don't see anything. Trust me, you will. There you go. That's going to be a better view because it's not going to be like when I touch this table, it shakes that camera down there, and that's not fun. All right. So I'm going to test this. This is a flat edge here. I'm just going to test that cut on the rabbet cut and see if it is deep enough by checking the depth of the plywood. And I'm also, oh my God, what the hell? Big old fuzzy black caterpillar. That's crazy. Well, you don't see that every day. I'm not going to touch you because those black ones can sting you. But I went to grab a piece of cardboard, and this guy was hanging onto the edge. He's kind of all curled up now. I have stepped on these before with my bare feet, and it about put me into shock. So the black fuzzy ones are really cute, but they can do some damage. I'm going to open my garage door and let him out. Because, you know, I don't want to kill him. But he didn't belong in my shop. So where would you like to live, Mr. Caterpillar? How about over here in my front area here? There you go. You kind of blend in with the chips there. That looks like a good spot for you. It's 60 outside. It's warm in my shop. In fact, I'm going to turn this heater off. It's so warm in my shop. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting up, I went to get this cardboard because it makes a lot of chips. And so what I like to do is put this little cardboard barrier up. And it just blocks stuff from flying over at my table saw. And then what I'll do is I'll take my dust collection hose and stick that over here. I can actually move this all back a little bit, make life a little easier, make sure you can see. There we go. And I just clamp this in place, and then it just kind of collects all the dust chips out of the way so I don't have to clean up as much. Of course, it helps if I actually have a clamp to do this with. I know, if I would put my router table fence on, and then it would give me a much better work surface, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, you know, truthfully speaking. So we'll just put my little cardboard stopper up there, and that will hopefully work for us. All right, so I'm going to make a test cut. We will check the fit, and then we will check the depth and use the marking gauge to get an accurate measurement of that depth, and then we will mark the next base and move on. So let's get this cutting. This little, if you can see it, so this little edge right here, there's this little rabbet cut. What I will do is take my piece of plywood here, just scrap, but it's the exact same thickness of the plywood we're going to be using, and I'll check that inside of that fit right there, and that seems to be perfect. I've got just a tiny bit of overhang right here. So as I sand and do other things, I have a little bit of room to spare right there. But this will be raised up just enough to still not impede that base when I put it inside. The other thing I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to check that angle that I have set and make sure it's the same depth as this that I just cut. Awesome. All right, now he says, I will take this base and make sure I'm working on the bottom of the base. Doing it on this side would be bad because that's the top. So I want to do this on the bottom, and I'm just going to use my marking gauge and run it around the perimeter of the inside. And what that does is it just breaks the fibers. Oh my goodness, look, there's somebody actually in here. Okay, so Wizard King, what is it that you haven't seen before? You said never seen one of those, but I don't know which one of those it is that you haven't seen. Which thing? You know, I need to figure out how to put like a time code on my chat windows so I know when the chat came in, because I am usually working and sometimes I don't see the chats come in, and it would be nice to know if, oh, that chat came in an hour ago or that chat came in like 2 seconds ago. All right. Anyway, put a mark all the way around the interior, and basically all it does is it cuts those wood fibers, so as that bit runs around inside here and grabs wood and pulls it out, it will sever it right on that line. Oh, the caterpillar. Yeah, those are kind of a fall thing around here. I don't see them anytime except in the fall around here, so I'm not sure what genus and species that thing is, but I do know that I have stepped on the woolly black ones before, and like I said, about put me into shock. I don't know what it is. There's a toxin in there that it has, but it was not pleasant. All right, I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to start things up, and we will cut this first one here. There we go. I mean, the cardboard isn't pretty, but it does the job of keeping all the stuff confined. And then there you can see, I've got this really nice ledge that runs around the inside now, and that's where the plywood will get cut and put into there. No one was more distracted by that caterpillar than I. Trust me, that's the last thing I was expecting to see when I reached into my my pile of cardboard boxes to grab that. He was, I kind of overreacted a little bit, I think. It's just like I said, I went to pull it out and he was just like hanging out there, and I was like, ah, did a little bit of a girly scream. That's okay. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. I'm just gonna try to whip through these really quick. Especially these are smaller, so they don't take long to do. I do these in 2 passes on the router bit though, because if you try to get too aggressive, you could end up tearing out wood too deep, and that would mess things up. So at least if I get tear out, it's usually small amounts. And like I said, it's constricted to that tear out line that I just created with the marking gauge. So let me get this one done, but that is perfectly lined up on there. And then the other thing I do when I'm doing this, because my table over time has kind of settled, so I do try to make sure that this is still really flat. So as I'm running it through here, I'm always trying to keep this part flat against the table instead of holding it back here where it might lift up. Because if you look, see there's a little bit of wobble there. So I always hold it flat here as I'm passing it around. So I'm always changing my hand position to try to keep it flat right near the cutting edge. That's the big difference of what I'm doing there. So, all right. And I'll tell you what, this cardboard does do a good job, because otherwise that stuff would have ended up all the way over by my computer. Number 2. Sapele. Sapele has a really unusual smell when you cut it, kind of like walnut. Walnut has its own particular smell to it, and sapele does too. I'm not sure how to describe it. Sometimes I think it kind of smells like a really strong soap. I've heard other people call it like a spice smell to it, but very distinct. I always know when I'm working with sapele. Oh, did this one, did that one? Gotta stop setting them in the wrong places here. All right. So Bouduc doesn't really have its own, I mean, it kind of has a little bit of an odor, but not as distinctive as that. White oak has its own particular odor, as opposed to like red oak. I can always tell when I'm milling up white oak from the smell. Which I think is just from like when you're cutting things, you're creating a dust and also a little bit of heat to that wood fiber, which kind of releases some of that aroma. All right. I have 3 more that I have to do this to. These are just the small ones, which is why I'm getting these out of the way. So I do have 3 more to do, which are larger. But this part of it, once you get everything set up, it goes pretty quick. All right. And this is why I don't use this table to flatten things out, because I would flatten it to this table and then I'd put it on a regular table and it would be all wonky. That's why I use my cast iron table, because this thing is not as flat and straight as it used to be. It's made out of melamine, which when you buy it is pretty flat, but over time it has kind of sagged and moved and needs to probably be refitted into the table here. I'll probably get to the point where I should buy a new 1/4 inch rabbiting bit. I've used this one a lot, and I've used it on some really hard woods, and I'm pretty sure it is probably not as sharp as it was when I first got it. And the other thing is, it's not a, this was not like a premium brand. I mean, it was probably one of the ones I got at Home Depot or something. So I'm not sure exactly how good it is. It's done a good job for me. I don't want to say it's been bad, but you know, things like router bits and stuff, as you use them over time, they just don't last forever, and you gotta replace them over time, which I hate doing because they're not cheap when you get good ones. But I might get like a white side or an Amana, which would be a better quality tool probably, and should over time give me better value. Oh, this stuff is so hard. This is gonna be interesting, cutting this stuff. This is the Jatoba, which has a crazy hard ranking on the Yanka scale. One of the hardest woods I've ever worked with, although it's up till now been really not that hard to work with. Much better than hickory. Hickory was my nemesis. Hickory was just a pain in the rear end. So this stuff has been better, and it's kind of funny that sometimes the woods you think are going to give you the most trouble are like the least effort. I mean, usually I really enjoy working with cherry, but I've had cherry that's just given me fits before. And I've had like white oak that I thought was going to be a pain in the butt, and it's just cut like butter. So just kind of depends. So this is a little different in that it has these dado cuts in here. And so as I pass close to those dado bits, I have to be sure that that bearing doesn't drop into that dado bit, because then it will take this cut all the way to the edge. So I have to be really careful around those dados to make sure that I pass that area and then pick up right where that dado starts on the other side. So I'll end here and then just kind of move forward in a straight line as I can, and then cut here. It's not really going to be cutting anything in that area anyway, so I can just kind of skip to the next part. But if I'm not paying attention and it drops into that dado, that base is gone. All right, let's do this one. Well, we'll see how this one works out. I'm not sure. These create a lot, because they're larger, they create a lot more dust. So I like to clear that dust out so it doesn't get trapped under the table and create uneven surfaces. So I usually just stop after I've done my first pass, and then I'll come back and do that second pass again. All right, well, not horrible, not the worst I've ever had to deal with. So a little bit of just little fuzzies around the edge of the cuts and stuff, but honestly, pretty nice. And sometimes the hard wood just gives you the cleanest cuts too. I don't know why it is, but sometimes it just does. And this looks really nice and crisp around the edges. So you can see that nice area right here. And what I'll do when I get ready is I will measure the width from here to here and the length from inside here to down here. And that gives me the sizing that I need for stuff. Oh, Wizard King, you got to go to work. That's okay. Cool, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. The stream will be available. I appreciate you stopping in and chatting. You have a great day and have a great weekend. I will keep going here because I have 2 more to do. Oh, crap. What time is it? Well, it's only 1 o'clock. So I've got about a half an hour left on stream here. And we can kind of keep things moving. Now, I've got pieces I need to keep with these bases to make sure they don't get lost. So this is the lid piece right here. And this will be the middle divider piece. So I always want to make sure these are close at hand to the base they belong to, because if they get misplaced, it would make me cry. Nobody wants to see that. I don't see that. All right, let me get this marked. And I'm so glad I made this marking gauge to start doing this with, because I am convinced, especially on splintery wood, that this makes all the difference in the world. Because I used to get some monster splinter tear outs, especially like cherry is really bad for that sometimes, depending on the way the wood is cut. But doing this has pretty much eliminated that for me. So kind of happy about that. All right, let me get this one cut. And the only thing I'm thinking is this stuff has the ability to kick up some nasty dust. I think what I'm going to do, maybe, thought I had some over here. I thought I had a mask over here. I don't see one. I'm going to go get my respirator mask, because this stuff is really, it's gross. So I'd rather spend a minute looking like Darth Vader than breathing in the stuff. That this stuff just seems to kick up nastiness. So let me put this on. It's just it's what I use for, take my glasses off. I use it for spraying lacquer, but you won't be able to hear me when I put this on. Or if you can hear me, I sound like, Luke, I am your father. Search your feelings. I know, but I had to say it. It had to be done. Okay, here we go. All right, so this one turned out pretty nice. This is sapele. It has a tendency to kind of want to splinter, but that looks pretty good. And I have one more to do. I'm just going to go ahead and keep the mask on because why not? So this is a walnut. So I'm going to bring this one over. Still going to need to make a lid for this, but I have extra walnut wood, so that won't be a problem. The reason I cut those bases for the other ones is I didn't have extra sapele and I didn't have extra jatoba, so I wanted to make sure that I got those cut out of existing pieces of wood before I turned those scraps into something else. All right, is this the bottom? Yes, it is. I guess I fix my scrap here. So there was one thing about this particular base. It has a knot under here, so you can see that knot. I'm hoping that the majority of that will be removed by the bit. But I have to be, once again, just like the dados, I have to be careful that I don't screw that. But because it's on the bottom and it's going to, I think that most of it will be removed when I actually run this through the rabbet bit. So hopefully, let's find out. All right, let's see how I did on that little knot. Actually, it turned out pretty good. A little bit of wonkiness right around the edge of it, but that's okay. And that really, it just kind of bit in just a little bit far, but not bad. And like I said, because this is the bottom, that really not an issue for me. Going to clean up the fuzzies around the edge here. All right, so what this means is that I've now caught up. All of my bases are now in the same state of completion, if you will, which means I can move forward with putting in the bottoms. I can start looking at cutting plywood. So let me see if I've got some cleanup space available here. Let me put my plywood, or my cardboard away that I use. I use that cardboard for everything. I paint on it. I block sawdust with it. I do all kinds of stuff with it. So I block the sawdust from going this way, not so much this way. So I still have a lot of sawdust over here. All right, just trying to get the bulk of that out of the way because I'm going to have to put this in the table saw and get ready to do some table saw cuts. And that means I'm going to have to clear some space over here because that takes a little real estate. I'm also going to lower my bit down into my table here. I will need that bit again when I get ready to do the little ledge that the lid fits into, because the lid is flush, sits flush in the top of the base. So when I get ready to do that rabbet cut for that, I would just raise that bit up again. But until then, I will just put my flat cover. Got a flat cover that I put on top of my router table. That's a dust layer. And that just keeps things from falling down inside and gives me a flat work surface right here. All right, set that aside. And then I have a place that I can put all these bases to get them out of the way. I will need to use them to measure for the bottoms. I need to see how much actual real estate I'm going to need out of these. We got 8 bases. We've got 8 bases. So we're going to figure out how wide that needs to be and everything else. So I kind of have to clean up some of this stuff to make room, because cutting plywood is, well, an activity that takes a lot of space. Even though these are not full sheets of plywood, they're still pretty large. They're 2 feet by 4 feet. And so getting them through the table in the correct width and such will require me to remove some of this stuff from the table at a point in time. I'm going to use these for something. I swear I am. You wait and see. I will use them for something. I'm going to make a bandsaw box out of them or something, maybe. Because then I'd have to change the bandsaw in my box, and yeah, who likes that? All right, I need to get all these bases up here so I can measure them and figure out what I need in terms of width. So these are all the longer ones. These will be the shorter ones. I'm going to stack them up here a little bit. There we go. Let me switch places. No. I don't know. Knocking things all over the place. All right. Anyway, where we be? All right, I need to basically take the bases and figure out what's the widest piece of plywood that I need to go on a bottom. And oh, you know what? I need to change my camera angle too. So give me just a second here. I'm gonna whip this around to the table saw angle. There we go. So now we're on table saw cam, and just gonna move this over here for a moment. And let's look at these bases, because some of them are made for larger machines like this one. So they will have one dimension. The smaller ones on the interior will have another dimension. Now I need to see what that is. So for these large ones, we're looking at 7 5/8, and that should hold true. Let me check all the large ones here so that I can maintain those 7 5/8. They should all be the same here. I keep saying that, but Doesn't always work out that way. So I'm just going to take a quick measurement on these two. Yeah, 7 5/8. The last one, the walnut, and 7 5/8. Okay, so I know I need at least some strips of 7 5/8 inch. These smaller ones are, that's 7 3/8. So let's just start measuring these. That's 7 1/8. I said 3/8, I meant 3/16. 7 3/16. This is 7 1/8. And this one is between 1/8 and 1/16. I think that's going to be the way this works. And then this one is 1/4. Go figure. Just go figure. 7 1/4. So we'll call it 7 1/4. Now I do have a strip over here of a plywood that has not been used yet, and it's left over from cutting some others. So I've got this piece here, and my thought is, if it fits in here, which it will, I might be able to get 2 out of this, like for these shorter ones. So lengthwise, I need, we'll call it 12 3/4. And this piece right here is, oh, more than easy. This is 29 inches. So that in itself is easy. I can get 2 of these taken care of with this piece right here. Easy peasy. The other ones, let me get a piece of plywood up here and just do some measuring. So I'm going to bring up one of these larger pieces of ply, put it up on the table here, and then we can measure. You know, we know this is supposedly 2 feet, right? So 24 inches across. And it is, well, not quite. This is like an 1/8 inch under, but at 7 5/8, if these were 8 inches, I would need 24, right? Which would give me 8 perfectly across. Because I'm 7 5/8, I have room, so I can cut 3 strips out of this, and that will meet my needs for all of these. So I can get, well, 1, 2, 3, and then lengthwise, the longest one I'm going to need is 20 inches, give or take, which would be right here. And because this stuff is 48, that gives me, I can get 2 20 inchers out of here easily. So we'll just average 2, 4, 6, right? And there's 8. So all of my stuff should come out of this single sheet plus this little piece right here. That should give me all the yield I need for bottoms for all of these bases that are sitting to the right side here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is cut these down to the 7 5/8 width. I'm not going to worry about this one right now. I'm going to set this aside for the moment because I know those go together. But I think what I want to do, because all of my widest bases are 7 5/8. If they're thinner than that, that's no big deal. I can always cut them down. But I want to make sure I have my maximum width at 7 5/8, which is what all of these measured. I'm just going to check them again. And if they turn out to be just a little too wide, I'll just shave it down just a hair. That's easy. The hard part is getting, making sure that I have at least as wide as I need. Hang on a second. I'm going to put this little doodad in here. There we go. All right. So I just want to make sure I've got them at least as wide as I need. And like this base right here is also a large base. 7 5/8. This one, again, I'd rather check them all because if I need one that's a little wider, I'll be hosed. This one, 7 5/8 is just fine. And then the last one is the walnut. Come here, Walnut. Come here, Walnut. And this one is a little wider than 7 5/8, but in places, it's got a little bow to it, but it's 7 5/8. So I'm going to go 7 5/8. I'm going to cut these into a 7 5/8 inch strip. And that means I'm going to move these bases over. I'm going to set my fence width so I know exactly what width I'm working at here. So that's pretty much 7 5/8 right there. I mean, it might need a little adjusting, and I will fine tune that in a second. And raise my bit up here. Check my height. There we go. All right. Now, the big problem I have is my outfeed table is cluttered with stuff. So I have stuff all over the place here, which needs to be out of the way because, yeah, because it's in the way. And honestly, I'm going to need those, but I do not need this. And to feed that sheet through here at 48 inches, so I need to clear probably to the back half of my table, about right here, to make sure I've got everything cleared out here. So I'm just going to start moving some stuff around, getting it out of the way. Got some clamps here that I can clamp to the table over here. This is kind of the way I have to do things sometimes. I don't usually cut a lot of plywood and stuff on my tables, but every now and then I have to like rearrange my world to make it happen. And let's put some tools away here. Get this big giant thing out. And so the big thing I've got here is I've got a couple of controllers. I'm going to put this in my drawer right here for right now. This is my camera switchers. Whoops. There we go. So this is my camera switcher. So it's kind of, I don't want it to get knocked off. And then this is my, my program switcher. So I'll get that out of the way. And then we should have ample clearance for plywood. Alrighty, let's measure our blade here. Make sure we're at 7 5/8. And yeah, that works. And then this can just go flat because I'm going to use this to help push through when I get close. Set it up here. Got my dust collection attached. I need to find my button. What do I do with my button? It's around here somewhere. Oh, I put it all the way over there. All right. And I need to be on camera 3. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and cut us some strips here. All right, and that's what we're left over with. This is this little piece right here, which is fine because there was a little damage on this edge anyway, so I'm happy to be rid of that. And we've got our three long strips now of 7 5/8 inches. So if I take this board right here, or the base right here, and I take this board and I can set it inside of that groove, you can see where it fits now nicely inside there. So all I would need to do for this one, it's tight, but it works. So I would just need to fit the length of this. So I would measure this lengthwise, cut that, and that's pretty much for the 7 5/8 ones. I think that's what we're looking at right now. So I'm going to do that over on the compound miter saw. So what I'm going to do here is get my square and just mark the length on one of these, and we'll go cut it, and it will check fit. Now these won't fit in until I round out the corners, because all of this rabbeting creates a rounded corner, and if I wanted these to fit right out of the gate, I would have to get a chisel and chisel these corners out. I don't like doing that. I'd rather round the corners. It doesn't matter one way or the other. Aesthetically, I think the rounded ones look nice because these things will all get rounded. They get huge roundovers on the edges. So honestly, it doesn't really matter, but it's a lot less work than chiseling, I will say. All right, so lengthwise for this, I need 15 3/16. Ooh, what do we got here? 3/16. So 15 3/16. I am going to, let me make sure it's a square first of all, because that makes a big difference. And it's pretty square. All right, so I will mark, if I have a pencil over here. Do I have a pencil? There we go. 15 3/16 on here. And I'll just use the square. And that gives us a cut line once I draw this. Maybe, if I can get my pencil to work right. All right, so there's my cut line. So I'm going to take this over, put it on the compound miter saw, and then we'll see how we do here. Now, I can pull my cameras back up. That makes life a little easier. There we go. Pulled my cameras back up, I can see again. All right. So this is the part that I hate, is that I have to constantly move my dust collection and my power from one tool to the other, because I just have, well, limited amounts for each one. I have a limited number of outlets, and I only have one dust collector with no extra hoses, so this is just the way things have to be. All right, and I'm going to need to unlock this. Let's get this cut here, and I need my dust remote. Now, if I have to cut these thinner, I'll have to come back to the table saw, move all this stuff back. It's just a pain. All right, so let's go over to our base here and see how we did. Now remember, this won't fit in, but what I'm looking for is to see if my length will fit into that. It's tight. It's tight. I probably should trim off just a little bit. I mean, it fits, but it's a very tight fit. And I probably leave just a little bit of extra wiggle room just for you know, swelling from glue and things like that. So I'm just going to trim this just a tiny bit. Come back over here and just give this a little trim. That's it. I mean, so fast I didn't even turn the dust collector on because I just took a tiny little bit off of here. I need to find my sanding block here because there are some fuzzies on here. All right, let's go check this again and see how we did. And this is the process we'll just go through for each one. So not a big deal. There we go. So that's a much nicer fit. And check this side. Nicer fit. I'm looking for that fit from here to here. I've already checked the fit from here to here. That was good already. So as you can see, I mean, yeah, there we go. So it's still just I still probably need to just shave an edge off. I might even just get my hand chisel out, or my hand plane out, and just run along the edge real quick. But anyway, we're going to call this one good. So I'll set this aside somewhere. I don't know where. Running out of room. Running out of room. Let's get these big ones done because we cut these 7/5/8 ones. Let's get those knocked out because we know already that it fits inside of these, right? So that was that first one. It was a shorty. So we won't have to worry about this on the long one, and we'll have much more room to work with on the long one. All right, so for this one, well, first let me check it. Do you fit? You're pretty tight, but you fit. So we will come back and shave this one down again. I mean, it fits, but it's a very tight fit. Let's get the length on these. That's easy to do. I'm going to work with this end. I just like it. I hate that they put these stickers on here. I have to usually get like some mineral spirits or something to clean them off, and they always kind of stain the bottom of them. They have the worst stickers on their stuff. That, like, they never thought that anybody would want to use this surface as a visual piece. I don't know. Kind of frustrating at times. All right, let's see here. We need, this is exactly 20, so I'm going to say 19 and 15/16. No, that's a little shallow on this side, I think. So 19 and 7/8, I think, is winner chicken dinner. 19 and 7/8. Mark here. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, draw my line, go cut this out. Let's see what we get. There's a little scrap piece I have nothing to do with, you know? One of these days I'll figure something out for that stuff. But let's check the length on this thing. Perfect. There we go. And there's a little wiggle room. You can see it. Just a little bit of wiggle room in there, but that's perfectly fine. That's all we need. All right, so this one's done. And set it aside. Because I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to get these ones that should already be close to their final width. I want to get them done. Let's do this one here. All right, the next one's going to come out of this piece. I think it's the same length. It should be because it's the same size. So 19 and 7/8. on this one. Boop, come down here. Okay. Alrighty. And I have one more large one that we can get out of this same piece here. Once we get done with that. And then we can move on to those odder, shorter ones. All right. Right. And let's check fit on this one. And the Baltic birch actually has two different sides to it. So this side actually has a pretty grain to it. This side has kind of a more plain grain to it. So depending, I might put the prettier grain on the inside because that's probably the side you'll see most often. All right, that's more than adequate for fitting inside there. And moving on. Kind of stacking these things up out of the way for the moment. All right, this one right here should be the same. Should be that like 19 7/8. Yep. Yep. Actually, maybe just a hair longer than that. Just a tiny bit longer than that. That other one was a little loose. I mean, it wasn't like wobbly loose, but it could have been a little tighter. So I'm going to go just a hair longer on this one, like a 1/16 longer. And also you can see we're not going to have a lot left over on the end of this. It's only maybe 7 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches. Which is good because, like I said, I hate scrap, especially scrap like thin plywood. I don't know what to do with it when I'm done with it. It's not like I have a lot of scrap 1/4 inch plywood projects to work with. All right, let me get this cut, and then we will try to get these last 2 weird ones knocked out. I say weird, that's not really what they are. They're not weird, they're just, do it this way, different sized. Another piece of scrap. And let's check this one. Okay, that's nice. That's a good fit. That's a nice fit right there. All right, so this one's good. Put all the splitties together with it, get it out of the way. And then we've got this last 2 that we need to figure out what they're going to get. So these are going to get different widths. So we're going to have to, can't use this width inside here because it's about a 1/2 inch too wide. But I can cut the length of it since I'm already set up for the length. So we will do that. Let's see, this one is going to get 12 5/8. Seems to be a good length for this one. Quick mark of that. Back and do this last one here. I am not going to do any of the roundovers and stuff today because it's basically past my time and I got to go eat lunch. So I'm just going to get these last 2 cut to length and then we will call it a day. And then you can come back Monday and see how we're doing. How about that? Does that work? Works for me because I'm hungry. I am hungry. All right, let me get this cut. And we'll do the last one. One more to go. One more to go. All right, I'll bring this over here. Check this one. Peachy Keen. We have to do the width on this one, so we'll just leave it over here for right now. I'm gonna bring this one over. This one's gonna need the width done too. It's not the appropriate width for this one. Even though it's a longer base, it's still the same width as this last one because it's made for the 3/4 bases. But let me check the length on here. We'll get this one cut. This one is, what is that? 7/16, 17 and 7/16. 17 and 7/16 seems to be the winning number here. All right. Mark it, cut it, put a pin in it. 7/16. Because it is lunchtime. I'm feeling it now, man. It's like, I was okay. Now I think about it and it's like, ooh, lunch would be good. And then I have a guitar lesson at 3. So I need to make sure I'm finished in time for that. All right, last one. And I still have enough left over for something else here if I want. So that's kind of nice. Like I said, once again, just trying to be economical with my wood. I see so many people that are just wasteful with their wood. You know, they just don't take any consideration into like where they're making their cuts or whatever. They're just like, oh, we'll just cut a piece out of here. And I'm like, okay, well, you just basically ruined half a board for one cut when you could have moved it and readjusted your cut position and had more usable. Whatever. I know. I'm the penny pinching woodworker, but hey, you know, all of this stuff, this stuff goes into the final equation. If you're not taking into consideration, you're not going to be sticking around very long. That is for sure. All right, I can get rid of these headphones and we can punch out of here for the weekend. All right. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. Wizard King, thank you for popping in and popping into the chat for a few minutes, and hopefully you'll be able to come back and watch the rest of the episode. And for the rest of you, if you were the silent majority, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. If you're watching later, well, come back Monday. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 till 1:30-ish, 2 o'clock-ish. Somewhere around there, Eastern time. And I would really love to see you here. But for now, I would really love to see lunch. So I'm going to pop out and finish off some of this stuff this weekend. I'm just going to finalize these cuts this weekend. You know, just get them to their right size. I will probably round the corners this weekend too. You know, it's not something you really need to see. And if I get them into clamps, even better, because then we can move forward with some other stuff. Really, this is not a complicated process. All I do is I round the corners. I round these corners off on here to fit inside of those rabbet joints. And then I put them in and with a bead of glue around here, clamp them in. That's it. It's not super exciting. They just get glued in, but it works, and they look great when they're done. And yeah, so maybe by the time we come back on Monday, we'll be able to do some stuff like round these corners over and start looking at things like the triangle blocks that go inside, or for some of these others, we'll have to start looking at inserting the middle pieces, because that's the other thing. We have this, sorry, let me grab this. So we have this middle divider. We've got this dado slot right here with this piece of wood, right? Well, this piece of wood is the same width as the rest of the wood. If I stick it in there, it's going to stick up a lot. So that's why I wait to insert these until we have a bottom put in. I will slide this down, measure the bottom, then cut these down till they're just a little taller, and then get them flush with a hand plane. And then we do a rabbet bit inside, and then we cut and size our lids and get those done. And we still have to do the rounded corners, and we still have to do the triangles in here. So these take a lot more work than just the regular ones, but they cost more for the person buying them because I put that extra work in. Anyway, we'll see where we're at on Monday, but hopefully come back, find out. It'll be cool, right? And I've got all these other things that I'm working on, these other projects. Come back and see how I progressed on those. I am going to try to move those forward because, well, Christmas, it doesn't wait, right? All right. Have a great weekend and come back and see me. And I've been, in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. And I will see you soon.